We're on the line with Lobeline, and today we're on site, very exciting, with Scott Carson of MRP for our Client Spotlight series. We always like to put a spotlight, pun intended, on our clients and the amazing things they're doing to help the world, and in this case, make the world a more beautiful place.
20 years ago, when I was part of the team at eBay that helped create eBay's healthcare marketplace, we learned a lot that helped us kind of get it going. But one of the things we learned is digitally native buyers that were buying healthcare equipment and selling healthcare equipment, pharma and services and supplies, they really weren't digitally native, and they weren't adopting to the platform. They just really weren't ready to go buy healthcare at a place that sold Beanie Babies and Pez dispensers. So there was a big pause there where healthcare really didn't become digitally native until several years ago. And when we started to see that change, where buyers were moving into the healthcare ecosystem, we decided to kind of take another look at building e-commerce and marketplace for healthcare.
Tell us about the types of machines you have here.
Well, this is an interesting place. This is the first biomedical facility that we'll build. We call this a smart center. Basically, it's smart to reprocess or repurpose pre-owned equipment. We're primarily focused, as you mentioned, on aesthetics. We started out in aesthetics just rather than, let's say, imaging or chemistry, hematology, or IV pumps or imaging, because of just market dynamics being cash-based and highly emotional, and there were just a lot of attributes for it that just made it really an interesting place to start. But if you're going to be in any form of true e-commerce or marketplace in healthcare, you really have to start in pre-owned, because a lot of people can basically put new equipment on a site, but without the ability to fulfill that, you're never really going to get the kind of trust you need to make that marketplace work. So we really had to figure out how to support the secondary market products. And over the last 8 years, we've built the largest processing center in the world for pre-owned equipment. There are 12 energy-based device technicians here. You'll see them kind of walking around. If they're on video calls, they're in white coats as engineers. So if they're not on one, you'll notice they're not in a white coat. There's roughly 250 to 300 new and pre-owned devices that go out of here a month. And we have it broken down by sold equipment, service, waiting on parts, and then also severely damaged, could be damaged from freight or some other significant issue. And everything here is videotaped overhead. Everything is recorded on the laptops and desktops and iPads they're currently using. You might hear something in the background, some people talking. That's currently because they're doing FaceTime installation or service support or some form of technical service. And it's really kind of a neat place, but this is really the nucleus and kind of the hub of everything that we do.
So you touched on something a moment ago, safety. And obviously safety, regulatory compliance, when you're in this space, can be very scary. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about kind of your protocols there and how you I guess, work within the constraints of those things.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. eBay today is the largest platform for medical equipment and supplies. It's currently doing roughly $1 billion in annual sales, selling imaging and aesthetics and IV pumps, all the things I touched on a moment ago. However, that business is primarily what's called spray and pray. Spray with Windex and pray that it works. There's no testing for the most part. There's no installation. There's no adverse event protocol or process. There's no certification. There's no electrical safety inspection. And we've really changed that 180 degrees. Everything that we buy, even new, comes in here and it is fully tested to meet manufacturer specifications. We don't really do any refurbishment as much as we do repair to make sure it meets those manufacturer specifications before it leaves here. And then we go through a reinstallation process to make sure that it's meeting those specifications when it's on site. This way we're assured that the devices that we're selling, both new and pre-owned, are meeting the specifications that are safe for the patient. Because I'm a patient, you're a patient, and ultimately that's what we want to make sure of.
That's great. Walk us through the facilities. Give us a tour.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So as I shared with you, this is really where everything comes in and goes out. It's a lot happening. And we ship everything through vans for the most part. We don't use crates and over the road because we just found it had a lot of damage and really didn't have the great experience.
So you control the whole process beginning to end.
Control the whole process from purchasing it to delivering it. And we'll walk you through over there. But this place gets really crazy when the vans are leaving. Last night we had 3 vans leaving, so there is just mayhem kind of getting out the door and getting things around. But we'll walk over there.
Right. How many machines do you think you have in here?
Between the 2 facilities where we have inventory, there's 3 total here that encompass about 40,000 square feet. There's roughly 1,300 pre-owned devices. And then new devices can be anywhere from 50 to 100 to 300 or 400, depending on how the inventory is coming in. So there's a massive amount of inventory here. It's broken down by the type of inventory, not by manufacturer. So from IPLs for photofacials, photorejuvenation, multi-parameter systems that might do that, and hair removal, or pulse dye systems, or body contouring, or ultrasound. So as we walk through this, you may see, hey, there's some similarities in the devices, but not by manufacturer, and that's because it's broken down by category.
How do you navigate, now that you mentioned manufacturer, how do you navigate the manufacturers that typically don't allow people to play in their sandbox?
It's a great question. This industry, healthcare, has always been focused on selling new and been adversarial to anybody selling pre-owned. Right. But about 20 years ago, we started to see in imaging that new and used were playing nicely in the sandbox, and that was really the first kind of move to create some collaboration between new and used. And today, if you think about imaging, CAT scans, MRIs, rad rooms, and ultrasounds, if we didn't have new and used collaborating together and third-party service, we couldn't afford healthcare. And the reason for that is think about it. If GE had a monopoly on all of their service, there would be no competitive marketplace, and the service would be so expensive that nobody really could afford it, and the manufacturers would be doing well. But by third-party services coming in, Trimedics, Airmark, Masterplan, so many others, we started to see pricing coming down because of the competitive nature of third-party service. In aesthetics and several other subsectors of the industry, it just hasn't happened yet. The new manufacturers have been very confrontational, adversarial in supporting the secondary market. But one of the things that's starting to happen is we're starting to see those things come together, just as they did in imaging. And that's going to happen very quickly over the next couple of years, and it's happening right now. And the reason is twofold. COVID was the first accelerant of that. And the reason for that is because doctors figured out a way that they could start to buy things without having reps come in. And interestingly, healthcare is one of the last remaining large industries where sales reps still sell the very best of everything. Nobody has a second best product. It's all very cottage and focused on one line. And so COVID really forced clinicians to be looking at other ways to not have to work with sales reps. The second blow has been interest rates. With interest rates climbing so high, we always look at this as it relates to the home market, other things, but something in healthcare and aesthetics that might have cost $3,000 a month, and a doctor could say, hey, you know what, I can justify that, is now $6,000 a month. And they can't justify that anymore. So now manufacturers are starting to understand, hey, we got to figure out how do we get rid of those devices that are in the practice, either through trade-in or through sale. How do we redeploy our assets, maybe rather than trash them or salvage them? Why don't we find a way to redeploy them and put them back out so we can get the service on those businesses? So in the next quarter or two, you're going to see some remarkable collaboration with major manufacturers and MRP coming together. And we're already seeing it now, some of those things occurring.
That's incredible. So you, and I've had the privilege of working with, through you, some of the biggest derms in the country. Mm-hmm. Derms that you have outfitted completely their practice beginning to end with your equipment. Mm-hmm. And these people have millions and sometimes tens of millions of followers and speak so highly of you because of what you're doing in the industry. How have you been able to forge those connections and really get those people to trust you in the early stages?
This is nothing that we invented. We simply took pages out of certain playbooks, and one of them was really being customer-centric. This is an industry that is completely focused on, as companies that sell these things, as stakeholders and shareholders and leadership. They've always been pointed upstream. And we took our model and really pointed it downstream. How do we serve the clinician that's serving the patient? We could care less about the upstream because we just felt if we took care of that downstream that ultimately would take care of itself. And that's really served us well. So we're myopically focused on customer experience and nothing else. And that ultimately serves our manufacturer partners so well because we now drive their products. The other thing is we've been able to take unknown product lines that really couldn't break into the market because of the high cost of building a sales channel, and break them into the space because we're offering lower cost products, which really are in many cases higher quality. And we're able to do that because we don't have field sales reps. This is an industry that still pays sales reps on the very low end a couple $100,000 a year, on the high end $2 or $3 million. And that is insane. If you think about the minimum of 10 to 15 years it takes for a physician to get through school and residency and fellowship, for a plastic, a derm, or even those that are working in med spas, and all that education, whether it's practical on the ground or clinical that they got, and yet they make less than the sales reps that are selling them equipment. What clinicians need to realize is they're paying for that. They're indirectly paying for that to be able to buy the product the rep says, when that rep has never had any business skills developed themselves. They have no understanding of true ROI or how to run a balance sheet or a P&L. So we're really going to see radical changes of reps being removed from the marketplace. And I think that's really resonated with customers.
Definitely. What about your warranty? I'm sure you have a warranty on all of this equipment that you refurbish. What is your warranty?
Pretty much on used equipment, we start out with just a basic heater and keys warranty. Some people want a lower cost and not a lot of warranty. Yeah. This is especially true if it's a very stable product. And they know it. They're like, hey, I've had one for years. I want to get another one. I really don't need a warranty. I need the lowest price. But we can go from 30 days to 1 year, in some cases 2 years, and that's just an additional cost. We really make it a la carte. New equipment typically has a year. We don't sell service contracts. We never have. We're not in support of those, simply because they typically are very expensive. And if you look at the aggregated cost of service contracts in some of these devices, which in many cases can be $8,000 to $12,000 a year, sometimes $15,000 to $25,000, it really doesn't make any sense. And frankly, I tell clinicians, if you had to buy a service contract at $20,000 to $25,000, is it really that stable of a device? And chances are it isn't. And we would never buy a car, really, if it cost us $25,000 a year to run it or to drive it. We might have it as a collector vehicle and drive it very sparingly, but we wouldn't use it as a daily driver. And these devices are designed to be daily drivers. They're tools to use in the practice. So we really discourage anything that has to do with service contracts, focused on buying core products that are stable at lower cost and really drive that great customer experience and profitability in the practice.
Incredible. Continue to show me the facilities.
Yeah, you bet.
Quite impressive.
So last night we had several trucks go out the doors, so the dock is relatively light right now, but you can see that these are all kind of bubble wrapped like cocoons, getting ready to be loaded. And the benefit to this is we really minimize the shipping damage and also maximize the customer experience. If you think about it, these things are typically crated and brought into a waiting room in a doctor's location, and some guy, typically a large guy, has got a crowbar and a hammer and is ripping that crate apart where all the patients are to drag this thing out of here. And we're doing it a little bit differently, where we're now bringing these things in, and our drivers are kind of unwrapping them and really creating that white glove experience, which is pretty exceptional. And these are all getting ready to go out hopefully in the next day or two, and we'll show some vans outside that are getting ready to take off. Started using sprinter vans 4 or 5 years ago, and they drive around now, not just the U.S., but also North America into Canada. And we've just found it to be a great experience. We roughly have about 15 of these vans. They're either black or blue or white. They're not labeled. They have no branding on them. And there's anywhere from 10 to 20 devices in there. And as they're running across the country, they'll drop things off and then pick things up. And we're really also able to bring our costs down substantially, along with making a great customer experience.
That's very impressive.
So this is interesting part of our business. Years ago, when we were just getting started, there was a clinician from Trinidad that reached out to us and said, hey, I want to demo a new device that you're selling. And it probably weighed 400 pounds. And it was during COVID, and she's in Trinidad. And we're like, there's absolutely no way we can even get to Trinidad, and we're not sending a 400-pound device to go demo. It's just not going to happen. So I said, what I will do is let me get a nurse and a patient and FaceTime, get a camera, and let's do a demo, of the device and the patient here in our facility. And so we did that, and it was a really unique experience. She was pulled over on the side of the road in a rainstorm and spent 2 hours on her phone demoing this product with the trainer, the nurse, and the patient. And in the end, she bought this $80,000 device. And it occurred to us that this is something. So several things come from this. Now we're doing training and education here all the time, but it's also content creation, which is remarkable. So we have full-time video production and editing capabilities here now. We have multiple trainers, patients coming through all day. And so what does it do? It allows us to demonstrate devices, but for the first time you can demo devices from different manufacturers. So that whole thing of sales reps having the very best, we're able to allow clinicians to compare those in real time. Also, we can archive that information for future content, for content creation, to drive branding and awareness and education. And this is ultimately going to be part of a platform that we create where people can collaborate together to get information and share ideas. But we got several things going on today. You mentioned some of our influencer partners.
Yeah.
Chris Tomassian
I don't want, funny enough.
is here today, and we're live streaming. Chris has roughly, I think, 3 or 4 million followers. He's a board-certified dermatologist from Los Angeles. He's incredibly well-known, connecting with the aesthetics community, and he's here getting additional training. And we got patients coming in for CO2 skin resurfacing, for fractionated skin tightening, for photofacial, photorejuvenation, and a super cool experience.
Wow, it just keeps going. So we're in another warehouse now. Oh, wow. Okay.
So one of the things that naturally happens with capital medical equipment is, even if it's new, it gets dinged and dented in transportation. So every single device that we touch up paint, even new ones. And that way, when it gets to the customer in that bubble wrapped experience, it really does come across as a brand new device. We also do this with every pre-owned device as well. This is one paint booth. We're getting ready to build another one next door, so we can handle serve painting in both facilities. This warehouse is energy-based devices as well, but these are non-lasers. Okay. Ultrasound, liposuction, cooling, different technologies that are different than lasers that require a little less technical capability, and they're housed over here. There's roughly about 1,000 devices in this facility alone right now, so we got quite a bit going on, and sometimes a bit messy. I can't really share who the manufacturers are, but there's several large pallets that recently arrived of what we call EOS parts, end-of-service parts. And these are from 2 of the major manufacturers, where we're starting to see that collaboration of partnership come together, where they want to discontinue servicing these products. They needed to find a trusted partner they could work with. So we bought these parts. One load was roughly 3.8 million, another one was 1.2. This allows us to service for them and take care of their products, to keep them installed longer, to keep their brand at a higher level. So we're starting to see that big correction and big change happen now.
Wow, very impressive. So you were quite popular in your previous career as well. Talk to me about some of the stuff I'm seeing on the wall here.
You know, I've told people kind of 3 lives in my business career. As a young man, I happened, kind of just odd opportunity to be in the automotive industry, and I had an exotic car dealership when I was in my 20s, and sold exotic cars all over the world, and got to meet some great people, and got to be involved in IndyCar racing and so many amazing things. And that was one part of my life. And although you can't see it, it's on the left over here is a picture of me and Leroy Neiman and a good friend of mine, Paul Zuger, who's an art dealer, and a picture that Leroy Neiman created for the Denver Grand Prix, and the pictures of me at the Grand Prix ball.
Wow. And
just some great experiences that I had back then. And then I had a unique opportunity to work for a medical device company. And if you think about it, you know, coming out of the automotive industry, where everything has, for the most part, a trade-in, right, and you're in capital medical equipment, and it just never occurred to me, or it occurred to me when I was involved, we should probably take trade-ins, and nobody else had been taking trade-ins in healthcare equipment. And that's really where it started, started to be an early kind of adopter to supply chain and healthcare, taking trade-ins and doing other things. And that was incredibly successful, and learned a lot of lessons there. And then that led to this collaboration with eBay. And eBay at the time I've talked about this a lot, that at the very beginning of eBay, there was a bunch of 20-year-olds kind of running around the building, that were from Stanford, and they had all this new leadership saying vertically integrate, but nobody really knew what that meant, but they just were all saying it. And if you think about it, Beanie Babies, Pez dispensers, golf clubs, was interesting, but where they really needed to get was in real estate and automotives and restaurant equipment and tractors and fashion and jewelry. And they didn't really know much, if you think about it, 20-year-olds, about fashion. They didn't really know much about automobiles or healthcare. So they would reach out to industry experts, have them come in, collaborate with these people, and kind of build the channel. And that really led to kind of the third part of my life, which is what I'm doing now, is kind of understanding healthcare, the supply chain, how the digital kind of revolution, kind of took over. And that led to this idea of about 8 or 9 years ago, building a marketplace. So now that I'm old and I can look back, I kind of look at it as 3 stages that really led to this place.
I don't think you're old, and plus you have enough equipment to stay looking young, so you'll be okay.
I am on my way, as you've heard me say before, Jamie, Benjamin Button. I am on my way. I'm going to be an infant by the time I'm 90.
We're going backwards.
I'm going backwards.
So just to close off here, part of this Client Spotlight series, of course, is talking about the amazing things you guys are doing, and it's actually been an absolute pleasure, working with MRP over the last few years, watching that growth trajectory. And I also had the privilege last night of attending your Christmas party and seeing how impressive that growth trajectory has been over the last few years. Tell me why you chose Lobeline.
As you know, we met at a kind of LSI, an investment kind of banking kind of, it's the best way to explain it is kind of speed dating for investors and healthcare device manufacturers and technology and pharma and other things. And we met there, and I think personally we had a lot of similar philosophies on number one being that care for the customer. And when I met with you and Miguel and the rest of the team, it was really clear to me that your focus was on what our objectives were and how we were going to help, how you were going to help achieve our goals. And it was less about, hey, let's sell you this package or let's sell you this product and let's hope for the best. You really kind of customized what it is that you guys do for the needs that we have. And that was early on. And, we knew that we didn't want, traditional marketing. Traditional marketing today is very difficult to get separated from the crowd. And really, how do you connect with your customer base? And so we really wanted to focus on, true PR and branding and awareness at a much higher level. And Lobeline, just given the genesis of where you guys came from originally, as you and Miguel took over the business from Phil, where you had your foundation and representation of kind of the LA world, and then you brought your digital experience that you guys had to that. It really was just a nice fit for us. But what's most important is that you executed so effectively on the early things. The podcasts that I've been able to be a part of, the magazines that have interviewed us, the trade shows that I've been able to get on the podium for, the places I've been invited to speak. You have created opportunities for us to speak around the world, to be recognized as really a power broker as a company and me as an individual, coming out of nowhere. And that really says a lot about your context, your team, the team's work ethic, the focus on the customer, which is us in this case. And why that matters so much is if you distill down everything that I've talked about, we're not really interested in driving a lot of profitability for shareholders. Our focus is really taking care of that customer. And the more awareness that you help us create and the more education that our customer has about having choices and having information and being empowered in the way they purchase, we get to lower cost and increase access and increase quality to healthcare, which you and I are both patients of. You're going to see this MRP model being replicated into other sectors of healthcare, where again you're using e-com and marketplace to provide data sitting on tech to make better purchasing decisions at lower cost. That's going to translate to much lower cost in patient care, and that's much lower cost in insurance to us. Right. And so what's interesting about this is what started out as, hey, help us get some brand awareness, is now it's something that we're collaborating together and really focused on doing something amazing. And then the last thing I'll say is I see you doing this also with your other clients. You have clients that really encompass all industries, and everyone has a unique mission that they're trying to make a difference on. And even if it's something in the art world where people in the art world are trying to do something to create a different level of experience for people that they may not be used to or have never seen before, you're making that connectivity, which is really remarkable. So I think that's initially we chose you just because of that personal connection, and why we stayed with you over the years is because of the execution of what you've been able to achieve for us. That actually was DDA Tays, and that was the first Indy race that I went to that I was a sponsor of, and Meryl and I had just gotten married, and that was Laguna Seca. And I actually took that picture in the pit. And here's an interesting story is, if you notice the other, you can't really see it there, but the other sponsor of that car is Kinko's. And this was right at the time that Kinko's was selling to FedEx. Right. It became Kinko's FedEx. So I was doing that when Kinko's, so it was Kinko's and my dealership.
That is too funny.
And then, and I was very fortunate to become Inc. 500. Now people know it as the Inc. 5000. Yeah. I was a multiple year recipient of Inc. 500, multiple year recipient of Entrepreneur of the Year, multiple year recipient of Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year as a finalist, and then another award which is really well known and well under, it's very rare, is called the Micro Enterprise of the Year Award winner. They give it once a year, and probably the most well known is Donahue that founded Domino's Pizza, and myself both won it. And so that was kind of an interesting life, and then started into kind of the digital side of healthcare, which is represented by eBay and what we're doing here.
Wow. Scott, this has been an absolute pleasure, and I can honestly say that every time I come here, I'm more impressed every time, and even the growth every time that I'm seeing here. So keep up the great work. Beyond excited for what's to come for MRP, and obviously the future of what you're trying to change in this industry.
We work with hundreds of vendors, from shipping companies to packaging companies to parts suppliers to software, to engineering, legal, and standalone. There is no group that cares more about our success than Lobeline. Across the board, your participation in everything we do, from our events, you guys are so embedded in what we're doing. You've become part of our family. Our employees know who you are. They know you by name. They know you by face. And I think that's the real secret sauce that differentiates you from everyone else, is the immersion that you guys provide. So thank you.
I'd like to believe that. Thank you.
Incredibly
very much,
grateful.
Scott. Really appreciate it.